The first APAC matches, some key NA matches, and 18 games. This is a pretty exciting week. Let's just jump right into it with our first match of the week, the Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Shanghai Dragons. The Fusion are trying to prove the doubters wrong, while Shanghai are just trying to be Shanghai. And I think Shanghai will succeed. Either the Zarya or the Winston comp, I greatly favor the Dragons. Carpe and MN3 could brute force a map, but I just give it to Shanghai in a sweep. I'm not as high in Fusion as others are, and I think this will be a clean sweep from the Dragons. Next up, Guangzhou versus Valiant. I want to be real, I have zero clue what to expect here. On paper, Charge do have the advantage. Hitscan and maybe Tracer are the only place I think Valiant are better, but Kron is so much better than Sasa and it's not even funny. And I think the Charge solidly support diff them too, but Valiant are just such an interesting team. No Hill is a madman, and I honestly think he has to have some sort of grand plan. Like, who the fuck signs 5 DPS? That's nuts. I'm going to play Valiant in a 3-2 banger. Charge do have the advantage and will likely win, but that's so boring. No Hill season, baby. Next up, Seoul versus Hangzhou. It's honestly a really close match. I think both teams are going to run the Winston mirror, and frankly, I think it'll be close. I do favor Seoul just a tad, though. It's hard not to favor a team with fucking Prophet, Fitz, and Smurf in a fucking Tracer, Soldier, and Winston meta, though I honestly think Hangzhou can give them a run for their money. Alpha E is comparable to Proper's Tracer. Yep, I said it. Shy is about the same as Fitz, and Goucher can match Smurf. Hell, I even think Hangzhou support diffs them the slightest amount. But I just have to go with the Seoul in a 3-2 thriller here. This is going to be a great game. Next up is the Washington Justice versus the Paris Eternal. Not looking good for the Eternal here. Washington could always drop the spaghetti, but we saw Toronto dismantle Paris' Zarya comp last week in a comp that Winston is just better than Toronto at, in my opinion. And I favor Washington a lot in the mirror. Washington is just on the upswing right now, and Paris is at a low point. Washington 3-0. Next is New York versus Florida. Another bit of a blowout, but it could be close. New York has shown signs of life throughout their game so far, and if Yaki goes at a tear, I could see them taking a map. But Florida just looks so good right now, it's a bit scary to see their rapid improvement. I don't see New York doing much damage to them though, but I'll give them a map. Florida take a 3-1. Next up is the Dallas Fuel versus Toronto Defiant. Another interesting match. We saw the Defiant take on the incredibly niche comp of the Outlaws. Can they do the same to the Fuel? I'm going to say no. I do truly think the Zarya comp is not it, but I can't deny that the Fuel played masterfully, and did use it to beat down Glad's pretty bad, who I believe to be a better team than the Defiant. Fuel are regaining their momentum, and it seems scary, but I believe Toronto are good enough to make it competitive. It'll be a fun series, with some upset potential, but I have more faith in the Fuel to close it out 3-1. Next up is the Guangzhou Charge versus the Chengdu Hunters. Now this one isn't so close. Chengdu just seem like the straight up better team. While Krong will do some damage, and Nisha is likely worse than Unique, at least on the Lucio, having you leave Jinmu fucking shit up on the Soldier Genji has me salivating. It worries me if they have to go Tracer or Soldier, but still. Monk is also nutty though. He'll show far away why he benched him. I do think Charge have a good roster on paper though, and could make it competitive. I think Develop Eileen's honestly a sick DPS duo in this meta specifically, but I'm going to give it to the Hunters 3-1. I expect Hunters to run more Monkey, while Charge run more Zarya, and I expect Hunters to come out on top in that matchup. Also note that this is winnable for the Charge, and I expect to get more than 50% of my APAC preds wrong, as I don't know what the fuck is happening over there. Next up is the Shanghai Dragons versus the Hangzhou Spark. Again, just a team diff. Shy and Alpha is cool, but y'all heard of Flood and Fitz? Really, there's just not much Hangzhou or any team can do against Shanghai. Shanghai just have the most well-rounded roster right now. There's nothing they can't dominate on. I think the only worry that Shanghai fans have is that Fate is likely not as good as Gusha and the Winston, and I'd favor Architect or Alpha a bit more than who were you or Flood on the Genji, but Shanghai's backline is so good, and that'll be massive for them. I have to Shanghai 3-1, with the map being brute forced by Hangzhou. Next up, Valiant vs Seoul. Just Seoul 3-0, honestly. Valiant might get some good momentum going if they beat Charge, but honestly, Profits is enough to 2v5 this team. You can't bet against Seoul here. They seem dominant and are apparently fairly close to even Shanghai in scrims. I give it to them 3-0. Next up is the Houston Outlaws versus the London Spitfire. This has some upset potential. Dante apparently is COVID and might be unable to play, whereas London are on the upswing after getting a bit of a winning streak going. I'm going to have to go Houston 3-1 here though. Houston have proven to be about the same as Florida, who has been thrashing the lower tier teams, and London frankly hasn't impressed me too much. I think if Houston can't out-aggro the Spitfire, it shouldn't be close. But again, not too impressed with Picky, and it's unknown if Dante will play. I'll go on and say Outlaws take 3-1, but I could see London winning it if Houston take it too easy. Next up is the match of the week, the Los Angeles Gladiators versus the San Francisco Shock. Both are vying for the top spot in NA, but who will take it? It's hard. Individually, other than Prover, I think Glads have the edge a bit in each position, other than maybe flex support. But I think Shock have looked much more coordinated and deadly. They absolutely smurfed Houston, who is a pretty solid team themselves, and Glads did look good against Dallas, but they kind of threw that win away, honestly. I just don't trust them as much as the Shock, who seem to not only have the firepower to match the Gladiators, but also the mental fortitude and synergy to dominate whoever stands in their path. I enter the Shock in yet another tough 3-2 loss for the Glads. Poor guys. Next up, we have the Toronto Defiant taking on the Boston Uprising. You just kind of have to go with the Defiant here. Boston are all over the place. They have seemingly random player substitutions everywhere. We don't know if Crimzo is out of the hospital yet. Just so much going wrong for Boston right now. I want to say it'll be close, but again, Toronto, they look scary. I gave to Toronto 3-0. Next up, Gongzo versus the Philadelphia Fusion. This is going to be a phenomenal match. Gongzo is really right there with Philadelphia, I think. Krong is right there with Fury. Develop can match M3 and Carpe. Eileen is really strong in a Genji meta, and their supports are right next to each other. I want to go for the spicy take here, and actually give it to the Charge in an upset win. I think both teams will run the Zarya comp, and I actually like the Charge more here. Develop Eileen Krong with the Reaper Genji Zarya meta is nasty, and I genuinely believe the Charge have the portal lineup. Unique and Molly or Faraway is honestly really underrated. I just have to give it to the Charge 32 here. I'm just following my gut. Next up is the Seoul Dynasty versus the Chengdu Hunters. Another nail biter, but I have to give this one to the Dynasty. Chengdu have the chops to match. Neither Nisha or Vindem I rate especially highly in the Lucio. Gaga and Leaf are crack pieces, and I favor Monk over Creative any day, but Seoul just have way too much firepower. Honestly unfair. Both Prophet and Soccer I consider to be better on Genji than Jinmu, and don't get me started if the Chengdu have to go Trace or hit scan. The Hunters can probably play it pretty close with Seoul, but I'm going to have to give it to Seoul in likely a 3-1, but this could be a 5-mapper, and I could see Chengdu beating Seoul. I don't even think it would be considered an upset if Chengdu were to take the win. But I'm just going to get so many of these AFAC ones wrong, aren't I? Holy fuck. Next is the Hangzhou Spark versus the Los Angeles Valiant. Despite me predicting Hangzhou to lose twice this week, this really is a great meta for them. Pretty much any meta with Goucher on Winston puts them into title contender tier, so long as the rest of the team can keep up. Valiant will no doubt have some wacky strats, but strats can only take you so far when the on-paper matchup is so one-sided. I gave it to Hangzhou, 3-0. Next up is the Vancouver Titans taking on the Atlanta Reign, 3-0 Atlanta Reign. Next up, Dallas taking on the Paris Eternal, 3-0 Dallas. Next up, Washington versus Boston, 3-0 Washington. Short day here, pretty mismatched matchups. Don't kill me if I get all of APAC wrong, guys. I apologize in advance. I have no idea what's happening over there. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit like and subscribe for more. I upload nearly daily Overwatch content, and I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by Season 5 for the end of Season 5, so if any subscription helps greatly. Thanks.